American people, to make certain that they possess all the facts that they need and understand them as well, the perils, the prospects, the purposes of our program, and the choices that we face.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Ultra MK Podcast, where we are reversing the narrative. And today I am very humbled to have an amazing woman join with us today who has been a part of a very, very dark system throughout most of her life. And we are blessed to have her on the show to expose what that system is and how it had enslaved her for many, many years, and to hear what she's gone through to where she is now. It's amazing the way God's using her to speak truth, to light and to overcome darkness. And she is on a mission to help the public awaken to what's been going on all across the world, but more specifically within our own nation, for a very long time. So I am very honored to be bringing on a special guest, Cathy O'Brien. And Cathy, thank you for joining with us today.
Thank you for having me on. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming. And what I'd like to do for the audience is I just really want to kind of introduce you to Cathy properly. I was just on her website a little bit ago, and she's done a great job with putting information on her website. And there's something I want to we'll just kind of show people where they can find you. Obviously, you'll be able to find her link in the drop down below if you want to click on a hyperlink to get to her website. But I just want to kind of incorporate the website to introduce her, and then we'll get into questions and answers here. So let me kind of share my screen, and it's going to share here. And here is her website. So you'll be able to find her website at trance-formation.com. And it says here, what do you really know about mind control? And distributing truths mainstream media must ignore for obvious reasons. They're involved and complicit in all of this. But on August 3rd, 1977, the 95th U.S. Congress opened hearings into the reported abuses concerning the CIA's top secret mind control research program, codenamed MK Ultra. On February 8th, 1988, a top-level MK Ultra victim, Cathy O'Brien, was covertly rescued from her mind control enslavement by intelligence insider Mark Phillips. Their 7-year pursuit of justice was stopped for reasons of national security. Trance-Formation of America exposes the truth behind this covert government program and its ultimate goal, the psychological control of a nation. Trance-Formation of America is the first documented autobiography of a victim of government mind control. Cathy O'Brien is a healed and vocal survivor of the Central Intelligence Agency's MK Ultra Project Monarch operation, tracing her path from child pornography and recruitment into the program to serving as a top-level intelligence agent at the White House sex slave. Trance-Formation of America is a definitive eyewitness account of government corruption that implicates some of the most prominent figures in U.S. politics. And I really encourage my audience to check out her website, trance-formation.com. And you can also be able to support Cathy's mission by donating to her. And she's also, she has a book that I'm imagining will dig into the deep underbelly of this satanic system. And I encourage all of my viewers to help support Cathy any which way you can. But that's just, yeah, that's absurd, Cathy. Thank you so much for joining with us. So let me just ask you, what really, so you've been on this journey since 1988, is that what I read?
Absolutely. I'm a survivor of CIA MK Ultra mind control on a White House Pentagon level, where I was deep in the Washington, D.C. swamp among perpetrators who steal elections, use drug and human trafficking across open borders to fund their globalist agenda, and who use the mind control, MK Ultra mind control on the nation and the world to usher in their agenda. And when we understand that the pedophile agenda is not only a mind control agenda, but it's also used as their blackmail leverage to compromise prominent leaders, judges, and people in positions of power and influence. So I've been right among those perpetrators. I'm very fortunate to have survived my ordeal and to have healed from it, to be speaking out for over 35 years on MK Ultra mind control and healing from it. My ultimate goal is to stop child sex trafficking, to stop the targeting of our children for MK Ultra mind control, because that is ultimately what happened to me, and what I witnessed was being planned for our whole nation. Obviously, we're seeing it today. I mean, the child sex trafficking is one of the most lucrative businesses in the world, and it's got to stop. Awareness is key. So I really appreciate an opportunity like this to raise that awareness and let people know what in the world is really going on these days and what we can do about it.
That's right. Yeah. And, you know, folks, we are so excited and blessed for Cathy O'Brien. We're doing a conference called Rev 17 in just a few days from now, about 9 days, June 20th to the 22nd, at the Church of Glad Tidings near Sacramento, where we are going to be uncovering all of the dark secrets of what's been happening within our nation when it comes to child sex trafficking and human trafficking, and all of the different people implicated in that system. And the reason for it is not just so we can, you know, awaken the public, which is a major goal, but it's also to shine a light on what we can be doing about it with solutions, which leads to what we're doing in Northern California with our Piece of Heaven project. Because with the amount of children who have gone missing into the system, there aren't any places that are known to be able to have enough beds or safe places to bring children once rescued. So it's a multifaceted effort. We're so happy that Cathy's going to come and support this cause. And if you, there might still be a few tickets left. If you want to go get your ticket, you can just go to peaceofheaven.life and go get your ticket over there. But, you know, Cathy, I'm really interested because my personal awakening happened just as if, or just before the COVID lockdown. Because once COVID happened, for many people, we were, you know, they were telling us to lock ourselves in our homes for weeks at a time. And, you know, what else are we going to do besides some gardening, some home improvement projects, and, you know, scroll on the internet because they've made us so addicted to our devices. So that's what kind of led me to like rabbit holes and learning about what's been going on. But if you don't mind just kind of sharing with our audience, how did you end up in a program like Project Monarch and being a victim of MK Ultra, and what's some of the history behind that you can share with our audience?
Well, I was born into a multi-generational incest-based family. My father was sexually and ritually abused. My mother was sexually abused and trafficked to my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge. And the Blue Masonic Lodge is a secret society where the local politicians and law enforcement hung out and shared secrets on what they knew about mind control. Knowledge is our defense against mind control. So secrecy has been key for allowing it to proliferate all these years. And when we imported the Nazi and fascist scientists into the US in the wake of World War II, with them came the formula for MK Ultra mind control. That formula is the same, whether it's of an individual, a nation, a classroom, a military, or the world. Trauma is the basis of it. And it had been found through Hitler-Himmler research. There's no trauma more horrific on the human mind than sexual abuse of a child prior to age 5 while their brain is still forming. It's because of our brain defense mechanism. This information on our own mind-brain function, our birthright knowledge, our defense against mind control has been suppressed under national security ever since the mind control formula was brought into the US. The 1947 National Security Act was formed the same year the CIA was. The CIA was all about implementing this globalist slave society agenda and also the promotion of pedophilia. And when we researched Project Paperclip, which I encourage everyone to do, we can research it for ourselves. Even Walt Disney was affiliated with it because Disney was part of MK Ultra from the get-go, part of the pedophile mind control agenda, and subliminals were embedded into the cartoons right from the beginning. The more we know, the more we see that what we're seeing today isn't new. What's new is that we're finally seeing it. It's been going on a long, long time, and it's certainly been going on my whole life. When my father's sexual abuse started in infancy, I didn't know what he was doing was wrong, but my brain did, because we have been blessed with a defense mechanism where the neuron pathways shut down around trauma and repress it deep into the subconscious mind so the rest of the mind can develop and function normally. However, that sexual abuse extended into child pornography, more neuron pathways shut down, more repressed memory, and that my father's abuse extended into trafficking me to my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge. So then more neuron pathways shut down. Mind control needs neuron pathways to shut down. It's what happens in our brains when trauma occurs. And that what we need is for our brains to fire properly and open back up. We need that God-given free thought, free will, soul expression, so we can tap into our strength of spirit and the infinite power of love. But that wasn't something that I was allowed to experience even as a little infant. Even though I didn't know what he was doing was wrong, my brain did, and was shutting down neuron pathways. By the time my father was caught sending child pornography of me through the US mails, this was like in 1960 in Muskegon, Michigan. He was approached by a local politician I'd been prostituted to since a little bitty toddler, and told he could receive immunity from prosecution if he would sell me into the CIA's MK Ultra mind control project, especially Project Monarch, which is a multi-generational project. It's multi-generational because Himmler research had also found that after 3 generations, any abuse-based, knowledge-based, or belief system becomes autogenic in the brain. It's genetically passed down. So they thought I would already be more compliant, and I was targeted for MK Ultra because of it. And I think it's important to note that this is how long our justice system has been corrupt to allow for the proliferation of pedophilia, because this was like 1960 and already national security was invoked on it. My father not only went free, but he received lucrative military contracts because this local politician was Gerald Ford. And that's the same Gerald Ford that went on to become the unelected president of the United States. And as his political career escalated, so too did my victimization in MK Ultra mind control. So my knowledge base, my experience, what I learned and witnessed, it's amazing that I survived, but I'm sharing all that I know because it's our birthright information to know how our brains respond to trauma.
Yeah, I'm sure God has protected you. I mean, it's hard to see looking back at all the things you've gone through, but you're here today. You're conscious of what's happened. Your bravery is coming out through these. I know you've done multiple interviews on top of a book, and you're really getting out there, and it takes courage to do what you're doing, Cathy. So I know God is covering you, and angels are swarming around you on a daily basis, protecting you. So let me go back to the story. So your father was already kind of, was trafficking you with the local Mason Lodge. And then you said that there was a connection with the politician. Was there some blackmail being done there where, like, was your father in trouble and then the politician could bail him out as long as you were the product sold into this new program? Is that how it all kind of happened?
Yeah, it was so simple because all they had to do was invoke national security on the case.
Mm,
We need to examine that National Security Act because it's been covering up crimes against humanity for since its inception.
mm,
So that's been a long time. But I was used in blackmail ops immediately after my father sold me into the project, and I was taken to Mackinac Island, Michigan, which was like the Epstein Island of its time. It was the where what we hear about the Diddy parties. It's where the videos were being made all the way
hmm.
back then.
Wow.
So yeah, so I was definitely used in that from the get-go, and the politicians that met there were global politicians meeting to decide the fate of humanity as they implemented this globalist agenda plan.
That's wild. It's such a multifaceted plan that they had to infiltrate our country to be able to control people internally and externally, and wow, it's just amazing that you were in that system. And so
Yeah.
and so so you so and so so with President Ford, you're saying that he was in fact complicit in this program.
From the get-go, yes, absolutely. And it extended to the nation when he was the head of the Warren Commission that covered up the Kennedy assassination. The Kennedy assassination traumatized our nation. And that's when this globalist agenda took strong control of the minds of the population and of our government. In the wake of the Kennedy assassination, we got the electronic voting machines, and they were rigged since their inception to place these complicit globalists in key positions of power and influence.
Yeah.
And because Gerald Ford was such an integral part of all that, he was given the position of president as his reward for having done that. Besides, he was willing to appoint the people who are part of this New World Order agenda. And people can look it up. He and Henry Kissinger, who was in his cabinet, had the first globalist agenda. It's still right there of depopulation. It's boldly right there. And he had George Bush to head the CIA. George Bush has told us he was ushering in the New World Order. George Bush is one of the most horrific people that I ever encountered that has sold our country out and used mind control, especially the pedophile agenda, to carry that forward. He had Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney is one of the most brutal, horrific people behind torture for the purposes of mind control that our country has ever seen. He had Donald Rumsfeld, who gave us aspartame, which is an artificial sweetener that started putting chemicals in our food to dumb us down and stop our critical analysis free thought.
Mhm.
He had Jack Valenti, head of the Motion Picture Association of America, as his press secretary.
Mhm.
Jack Valenti covered up the Kennedy assassination and is the one who came up with the conspiracy theorists for anyone questioning the media narrative.
Mhm.
So we've got a lot of the key people just right there in Ford's cabinet. Jack Valenti was also a part of MK Ultra in knowing that repetition is the most basic form of mind control. When we are told something repetitive, when we hear a repetitive media narrative more than 3 times, it affects the subconscious. And our subconscious mind, especially when our conscious mind is distracted by trauma or is
Yeah.
taken flight or freezes, it
Right.
leaves our subconscious open. And if we don't have a conscious mind filter, we just take information in. And that information then drives our thoughts, our conscious thought, and ultimately our actions later. So there's Jack Valenti on that. It was a very transitional time with the Kennedy assassination, which is why, so much is still covered under national security there.
Yeah, I mean, you called it with the way that they use word phrases and programming to even like the masses. I mean, just coming out of the COVID years and the way they would use certain phrases like trust the science And, you know, they made people so fearful of showing things through the television, the television of, you know,
Yep.
cases and fatalities. And, you know, everybody was freaking out about this mystery virus, but they were just programming people. It was just like essentially a type of MK Ultra of them just like steering a narrative using these key words. Um, so let me ask you, so with what we're learning now as to how the government and the CIA and other three-letter agencies, as well as other um, countries and their covert operations using the honeypot strategy, places like Epstein Island and certain key players. Here in California, we have the Bohemian Grove. And
Mhm.
for many years, I guess they had been bringing a lot of powerful men to this secret location in the Sonoma Valley woods, where they would you know, do different rituals and do a cremation of care, which is an old Babylonian ritual where they would then pray in front of a 50 or 60 foot owl statue. Would you say that, like, with what you know, that would this Bohemian Grove also be kind of like a location where it could be essentially a honeypot to entrap people into certain deals?
Absolutely. And they had videos in every room. I know I was there on numerous occasions among the people there, and I was to be killed at Bohemian Grove at age 30 for all the government secrets that I had been exposed to. They were concerned that they might surface, or that I might start to remember something. So I was to be killed in front of these global leaders. That is more what the sacrifice is at Bohemian Grove, is to eliminate MK Ultra mind control slaves than than it is for any ritualistic religious type belief, because they don't have that. Not the ones that I knew. They were just all about controlling information.
Yeah, it's interesting. Those are like ancient beliefs of ritual sacrifice in order to appease their deities. Of it's like a form of paganism, but they have and made it like this power structure where they've embedded their belief, their satanic beliefs into a system that they can then control some of these politicians. And then going back to what you're saying about like the Bush family, the Cheneys, these are people involved in the secret society Skull and Bones. And
Yes.
and so that's really interesting how you can start to puzzle piece together some of these actors and where their family lineage comes from and these societies that they swore allegiances to.
Yeah, it's funny you'd say skull and bones, because the mascot is an owl, the same owl that is at Bohemian Grove.
Hmm.
There are a lot of parallels there, and a lot of global leaders met there to do the same way they did at Mackinac Island, Michigan back in the day. They've always had these secret meeting places where they go and they fulfill perversions and film them, because they don't trust each other either. So they hold
Hmm.
each other by the blackmail, so to speak.
Hmm.
And that's what these videotapes are all about. And it's more importantly than who's being blackmailed. We need to know who's doing the blackmailing and why. Why are they so hell bent on controlling people in power positions of power and influence? It's because there's actually a small number of them, and they want to appear to be more powerful than they are, by having so many people under their control and under their manipulation and coercion. And now, definitely under their MK Ultra mind control, because they use that on the global population when mind control masked as a virus was unleashed 2020. So they could blatantly steal elections right in front of all of us. What was the first thing they did? Fling the border back open to their funding mechanism of drug and human trafficking. So it's very clear what their agenda is. It's very clear that we're up against a very evil, dark, negative energy force, and that it only has as much power as we give it. or let it steal.
Yeah.
We have all the power. We've been blessed with it all along. And, you know, that's the good news, is that people are finally realizing that, remembering who they are and why they're here at this pivotal moment in time.
Yeah. And that's true, Kathy. I mean, with all we've gone through as a country for over nearly 250 years, um, that's something that I believe will unify people is once the collective consciousness of all of the people of the world, but mainly in America, were to realize what's been done using children. I think they're going to let their partisan issues subside, and we can lock arms and unify, because the same system who's been involved in trafficking children are the ones that are dividing us based on political issues, and dividing red and blue, black and white, all these division methods and tactics. I feel, and from some of the prophecies spoken, or if people are into the Q comms, the military comms, there's clues in there saying that the children are going to unify the people. And that's really what I pray for, because we got to stop being at each other's throats over individual social issues, and really realize that if we don't go and protect children, whether they're ours or other people's children, we're not going to have a country. We're not going to have a good society, because that has been their plan for countless years. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And it's why I'm so excited now, is because people are finally waking up to realize that. I've waited a lifetime for people to see what's going on, so that we can effectively protect our children, protect our future, going forward, and above all, protect our minds. Because I know from my MK Ultra mind control experience that if we don't have free thought, there's no free will. Without our God-given free will, we have no soul expression. If we don't have our soul expression, we lose our discernment of truth,
Mhm.
with our compassion for each other, our ability to unite, our ability to gather the strength of the human spirit and that infinite power of love to take a stand for our children's sake, to take a stand against these crimes against humanity that have been going on for so long. That is why they're using mind control. And when we look at it from that perspective, it is a spiritual warfare. There's such a low vibration, dark negative energy force. They feed off of hatred, fear, division, negativity. That's their vibration.
Right.
Our vibration, when we live true to soul with strength to spirit, that vibration of love is the most high vibration on the planet. It's the most powerful force in the universe. And they know that. They fear that. They can't control it. They can't stop it. They can't even reach it, because that would be like darkness creeping in on light. They can't get there. The only thing
Yeah.
they can do is stop our ability to think, to express it. And that's what mind control is all about. And people are waking up from that mind control. And as they do, we've got a spiritual awakening and an evolution going on that is so powerful, that that light is shining so bright it just exposes all their dark secrets, and it's going to dissipate their darkness. But the children really need us to do it now, because they can't wait. They just can't
That
wait longer.
That's right. No, we have to do something about it. There's so much crossover, because I mean, in the truther movement, there's so much to learn about, you know, the evil system versus God's light system of people who are good. And there's always that spiritual battle. But there's different elements to all of this stuff. Like a second ago, you mentioned frequency, and you know, I've even gone down some rabbit holes about like other societies and civilizations that could have existed here, like the Tartarian Empire, and they had bells on just about every single building. And bells, when you ring a certain giant bell, it's going to push out a frequency. And there's something to be said about and that's why on Sundays, church bells are ringing. There's something about a frequency that in the supernatural realm, in the demonic realm, that they hate those positive frequencies because it makes them shrill up. But there's so much that we are as humans beginning to understand that these same global nefarious Luciferians have been trying to take away the good things that God's created for us and then superimpose their artificial, poisons into us as people. And, they've been leveraging this, children essentially to get people to do what they want for them, and so it's interesting too, because I haven't lived enough life to know, but I've been talking with a lot of other people out here in California that were part of the Jesus movement of the 1970s when there was a big revival out here in California. And there was something happening back then to where, a lot of the hippie movement were always seeking out love, and they wanted that true divine love, but they were infiltrated by people that were bringing LSD and drugs and things into their movement. And then that kind of led me into studying about how they would have MK Ultra testing on a lot of the hippies that were out here in California, and they would give them certain LSD and certain things, and they would trap them and do experiments on them. What do you know about maybe what some of those things that were happening back in the 70s?
Yeah, definitely. The freedom movement was gaining ground and that it was being squashed from numerous sides. And you mentioned the harmonics, and even the harmonics in music shifted at that time because the frequencies vibrate neuron pathways in the brain and can open them up, like those bells you were talking about, they can open up neuron pathways, and they're needing those neuron pathways shut down. So they took over the frequency of the music to use a harmonic frequency that led people into cocaine, especially that was coming on so strong, and the music was reflecting it. And so they even used techniques that direction during those times. But there have been numerous ways they've maintained a control over society with national traumas like the Oklahoma City bombing and Waco. And these are when people were asking questions and then they were subdued when these traumas kept occurring. 911, that was such a major trauma on our nation that led us into war. So these traumas are used. And then we get the media's repetitive narrative on mind control masks as a virus, while everybody's scared that everybody's going to die, then they were doing mask up, get the injection, social distance. How many times did we hear it? That repetitive
every day.
It programmed people that, and people now are having to deal with the reality of the magnitude of the consequences of the actions taken at that time. Masking up children depersonalize them. That masks are used in MK Ultra mind control very deliberately to depersonalize, muffle voices, and above all, limit oxygen to the brain necessary for critical analysis-free thought. So we masked up our children. That was horrible. It caused identity disorders that were then redefined as gender disorders. And then they moved in the transgender movement. But there's all different ways that they have been manipulating society that have really ramped up hard the last few years, because their plan, as outlined in my testimony for Congress, Trance-Formation of America, my 1995 testimony, national security was invoked on it, but it showed who was going to be placed in the office of president until Hillary Clinton ushered in the New World Order. Well, that didn't happen. Their plan didn't go as planned because, they're starting to catch on to the idea that we already won. We have the victory within us. They lose. People wonder how I can smile after all I've been through. It's because we're in the victory path right now, and it's just a matter of claiming that victory, because we
Yeah,
win, they lose.
that's right. I just had a great interview with Hope Beryl Green, who is very excited to meet you at the conference Rev 17. And, she was in a breeding program. She was actually her mom was a breeder for I don't know I don't know if it was CIA or somebody, but she ended up in the Epstein Island trafficking through Epstein's circuit. And so it's just amazing to hear your girls' stories of how you've overcome all of these situations. And I really hope that the masses will wake up and see that politicians and celebrities and athletes, many of them that we've grown up with, brand names we've grown up with, are all compromised. They've all been involved in some facet or another of this Illuminati scheme of getting people controlled so they can then do whatever kind of MK Ultra propaganda campaigns to get people to kind of fall in line. And they've been using, I mean, we see it now. I mean, even if you watch the Super Bowl, a lot of the Super Bowl, they love doing these different like satanic productions at the halftime show because they know with all the views that people are watching it, that they feel like they get power off of, showing people in advance what they're up to. And they use forums like a concert or a Super Bowl like that. And that's just,
Yeah.
it's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah. And it's their last hurrah. We're seeing it now. And they're just about defeated. But we've got a ways to go to clean this mess up, and children need to have us do it now. They can't wait any longer. They need us. They need a safe place to be so they can begin healing. And we have the most resilient body, mind, and spirit we've been blessed with all along. We can heal. Once we're in a safe place, we have that capacity. It's because, like, when no matter what my body went through, no matter how I was tortured, when I was taken to various military, DARPA, and NASA installations for MK Ultra mind control programming, the tortures that I endured, the traumas that I experienced were so horrific. And yet, no matter what my body went through, my spirit was always in a safe, loving space. We hear how people who have near-death experiences, it's like they're above their body with a light going, attaching, and they have an overview where they can see. And having experienced that so many times in my experience in MK Ultra mind control, that safe loving space, that saving grace is like a freeway to me, and it's one that I celebrate. It's like everyone who has been through these horrific traumas, the testimony that they have is beyond words. It's so absolute. It's more than footprints in the sand being carried. It is an absolute, total saving grace connection. And it's one that we all have. And we just have forgotten. We've been led astray from it all. All we need to do is go within, remember who we are, why we're here, and realign with that divine attachment within, and realize we've got the victory. We've had it all along. And it's such a encouragement as we're helping these horribly abused children to know, yes, they can heal. They need a safe place to be. And then the resiliency of body, mind, and spirit that they've been blessed with will kick right in, and they'll be able to heal. What this means for our future, the testimonies coming forward, where we're going from here, I'm so excited, and I'm so thrilled to be a part of this. I'm so thrilled to see people finally taking action to create these safe places, these piece of heaven, for the children, and to be able to start effectively helping them reclaim their birthright to live the love they are. Because what happens to us in life isn't who we are. Who we are is still within, and it's
Hmm.
within us to reclaim that and live it in its purity that it was
That,
intended all along.
that's right, Kathy. Yeah, your trauma doesn't define you. It's
Right.
what you do to overcome that, and we are unifying together as one body. And I think that's what God really wants us to do, no matter what your background is or your political beliefs are or your religion. I think that, God is going to connect everybody, to together to work together to help rescue children. And that's really what we're trying to do out here in California with our Piece of Heaven project. Right now, our country is so far behind the curve when it comes to having safe places for children to be taken to once rescued. And that's something we've heard time and time again from people who are very capable of conducting rescue missions, like, people watched in the movie Sound of Freedom, which, took place overseas. But I mean, there's so many situations in America where children could be saved, but the problem then becomes, well, where do you take 100, 200, 500 children that are sometimes being held captive in some of these operations? The last thing that these good men and women who are putting their lives on the line want to see is for those children to fall back into the system. And
Right.
I've been talking with people, Kathy, lately that are really shining a light on government-sponsored kidnappings,
Yep.
the darkness behind the CPS and who's involved, who's corrupted within the CPS system. And, especially here in California, people are so trusting of government that they don't realize that these kids can go right back into being trafficked if you just turn them over to the CPS. So what we're doing is we're just finding who our allies are in America within the Trump administration and people who do want to support us. And we are going to be fully compliant with state and federal laws. But ultimately, God's law is most important. And we want to make sure that our constitutional rights and our Bill of Rights are being honored, and as well as for the rights of children. And we will be helping children, both American children as well as international children, because it's not their fault that they were brought over our borders into our country for these nefarious purposes. So we're going to be working on a much larger scale within a bigger network of people who've been vetted and who actually really want to help restore and heal children and to make sure that they can be safely brought back to whatever nation that they might have come from, as long as we have done enough vetting and research to know how did they end up in there? Were they sold by a family member? How did they get there? So there's going to be a need for a really good foster care system,
Yeah.
and that's really what we're trying to unify good people to do. Is we have to provide safe places to go. And, right now, when you start looking at the numbers, I mean, even the mainstream media talks about 350,000 children just during the Biden administration went missing across the southern border. But what about all the other children that were probably missing before that within our borders? But, because President Trump had his hands full with trying to, deal with the border situation and traffickers. So, there's not enough facilities that have beds. Like the Piece of Heaven, once we get it funded, we're looking at between 200 and 300 beds, which just scratches the surface. Most known intake facilities that we can find out about have, fewer than 50 beds, 60 beds. And we're talking hundreds of thousands of children. So we have a lot of work to do ahead of us, but we're so thankful for people like you who have been involved in exposing the system and who have a heart for this and a following of people who support you that then will hopefully support Piece of Heaven. And if you're watching this today and you want to come see Cathy at the Rev 17 conference, just visit peaceofheaven.life. That's peaceofheaven.life and click on the Rev 17 conference. If you can't come to California, and we understand you might be in another part of the country, it's going to be live streamed for free on our website, and it's going to be on many other outlets, especially X and Rumble. We have a lot of media and podcasters that are going to be connecting live streams and pushing it out. So His Glory will be live streaming it as well, His Glory TV, and then the Church of Glad Tidings.com will also be live streaming it. But we're so excited to have you out in California, Cathy. I'd love to bring you back onto my show. if we can get you back and get some updates from you and see how you're doing. But is there anything you'd like to close this episode with?
Oh, yeah, I'm so excited that people are finally doing their part. This administration is doing all they can, but they can't drain the swamp from the top down. It's up to us, all of us, to do it from the bottom up. And it's finally happening. People like you are getting out there and taking the action necessary. And it's so encouraging to see that finally happening. I've been speaking out on this corruption and the corrupt system for so long. My daughter was thrust into the corrupted Child Protective Services back in 1990, and it was love for her that compelled me to start speaking out to begin with. So I've been speaking out all these years to raise that awareness so that nothing ever happens like that again, where after all my daughter had already been through, then she was ripped from my arms for all those years, illegally, immorally, through a corrupt system that I saw being put into place while I was under MK Ultra mind control. So it's so encouraging to see people realizing that now, waking up, taking the action, and realizing it's just we've already got the victory. We have it on so many levels right now. The obstructions are out of our way. We can effectively start getting out in our communities, talking to each other, eye to eye, heart to heart, soul to soul, and taking action right there in our own backyards. That local action has national impact, has global impact. And that's what the children need now. Love is key. And I'm so looking forward to participating in the Rev 17 conference, where so many good people are coming together to make that positive, necessary change.
That's right. We're so excited to have you, Cathy. And we're going to go ahead and close the show today. Just make sure you can go and support Cathy on her website. Let's see here is what trance-formation.com. And the link will be in the drop down below for those who want to go and do more research about Cathy O'Brien and the work that she's been doing for so long. And we can't wait to bring you back on the Ultra MK podcast, where we are reversing the narrative. Thank you, Cathy.
Thank you so much.
God bless you, Cathy. We'll see you soon, and safe travels.